Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. I am the maestro Jeremy Karp, and alongside me is a man who is trying his best to maintain his sanity after Cooper Kupp got injured last week and is headed to IR. The one, the only, America's favorite umpire, Hollywood James Knox.
Good evening, Jeremy. How are we doing this wonderful cold Wednesday?
I was going to say, I damn near froze to death heading to the car after work. I'm doing all right, though. How about you, my friend?
Well, other than Cooper Kupp going to IR, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say Cooper Kupp out for at least 4 weeks because, the Rams are such a potent offense.
Yeah, I mean, he was our offense. We will not score any points now, so.
Absolutely. So, but we got so much to talk about, James. We got to talk about the fact that the Illini are struggling after going 6-1, which you had mentioned this to me. See, I had mentioned that at the rate they're playing, they're going to end up in something like the Beef O'Brady's, like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Bowl. And then you brought up an interesting fact. James, why don't you share that?
The last bowl game that the Fighting Illini football team has played in was the Cheez-It Bowl, which was held out in San Francisco. Folks, the Cheez-It Bowl no longer exists. It's been a minute.
I can't believe that.
That cheese really has matured. What? I like those commercials.
They some of them crack me up. Quick side note, you remember the Get the F Out commercials when WWF was changing to WWE?
I do. Yeah, because of the pandas.
Because of the pandas, because of them damn jealous pandas. Okay, nevertheless, we're also going to be talking about how the St. Louis Blues, who are actually currently playing against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, they just scored. Right before we came on the air, they scored. It's 1-0 St. Louis.
Well, there you
go. It's us. It's got, hey, look, it's all started with my rant last week, and then as soon as we come on the air, they score.
I will just say, ever since James' rant last week, the Blues are 3-0. I'm not one to be like that superstitious type person, but
it's only crazy if it doesn't work.
It's only crazy if it doesn't work. And
remember those ESPN commercials where it was like you had the Ohio State and the Michigan fan in the same house or whatever, and they would always sit in the same chair and they would never look at each other and everything else. Those commercials were great. I loved them. ESPN has the best commercials, or they used to have the best commercials ever. They were so awesome.
Oh yeah. And on top of that, we also got I love the This Is Sports Center commercials. Those were all my favorite. Right. Those were the best. We also got to talk about a lot going on in the NFL. We also, let's see, what do we got going on here? Oh, and of course, we're also going to talk about the Kansas City Royals and how at the end of this decade, they will be moving out of Kauffman Stadium, out of the K that they've called home since 1973. And they will be moving not to another city, thankfully, but they'll be moving to downtown Kansas City because, why not? Well, from the perspective of this Kansas City sports fan, I say why. Speaking of which, Chiefs Kingdom, baby, repping that Kansas City Chiefs gear, so you gotta love it. And James over there repping the Winter Classic Blues jersey, so that's how we roll. And of course, for our featured segment tonight on Roundabout Sports, it is going to be talking about, and I can't believe, it's had to come to this point, folks. And be sure to definitely tune in, give your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns. We're going to have to talk about Elon Musk because his Twitter takeover, his Twitter takeover and how it's going to affect and how it already has affected the integrity of sports journalism as a whole. And it's not something I'm looking forward to.
No, that segment very well may cause me to go full mad dog because I'm still paying on student loans because of my journalism degree. So, yeah.
Yeah. And Mock, I'll tell you right now, the Browns helmet was a gift to me from my cousin many years ago, so I always cherish that. And the Chiefs shirt, even though we're based out here in St. Louis, got to rep our Missouri sports teams, especially here at Interstate 70 Sports Media, and that includes the Chiefs Kingdom, baby. So
that's right. Border to border, baby.
Yep. And especially considering the Buffalo Bills can't close out a game. Look who's number one in the AFC at this rate. So we'll take it. Man. I guess first thing we do
I'm sorry.
You're good. First thing we do have to talk about is the Kansas City Royals moving the plans to move out of Kauffman Stadium. This was announced yesterday in a letter released to the fans by Royals owner John Sherman. And so he plans on not only moving the team to downtown Kansas City, but he also plans on creating a ballpark district around the new stadium. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here, James. Where have you heard of this concept where there's a baseball stadium and around it there's a district, with entertainment and historical stuff and restaurants? Any idea?
I can't put my Wrigleyville. I can't put my finger on it here. Maybe Lowe's Live in Texas. No, that's not it. Oh, Ballpark Village, about 6 hours east.
Exactly, Ballpark freaking Village. Oh my gosh.
I'm curious because Kauffman Stadium has so much history to it, and I know that people think of the Royals and they think of losing. But look, I mean, gosh, the George Brett was. I can't imagine. Are they going to just tear that stadium down? I mean,
that's what I'm afraid of.
That ballpark has so much history in it. I kind of liken it. This is going to be a little off, but it's not. So in comparison, you ever been to Memphis, Jeremy?
I don't believe I have, but I've always wanted to.
But I'm sure you've watched wrestling where they were wrestling at the Mid-South Coliseum, right? Okay.
A lot of times.
So the Memphis City Council, they are voting whether or not to demolish the stadium or to demolish the Coliseum in Memphis because of building a new soccer stadium, one that stands alone instead of being shared with AutoZone Park where the Memphis Redbirds play. So, and everybody's like, oh, well, if they're going to do that, then we have no problem with them demolishing the Mid-South Coliseum. Step in WWE. And this has been going on for quite a while. WWE's like, no, if that's the case, if all you're going to do is demolish the building, let us turn it into a Hall of Fame museum, which would be awesome. There is so much history in Mid-South Wrestling, Mid-South Coliseum, Jerry Lawler, on and on and on. So here's my same issue with Kansas City is if they move to a new stadium, and I had this problem when the Cardinals built Busch Stadium 3. I really did. I saw my first ball game in Busch Stadium 2, the Jack Buck moments, the go crazy folks, the Jim Edmonds laying out against the Astros to make that great catch and then hitting a walk-off home run. I mean, just so much history. Now, I understand that everybody's looking for the bigger and better thing. I get that, okay? We all look for that in life. We all want that. If the Royals are hell-bent on doing this, they better put a ball team together that is going to draw fans to that new stadium. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're demolishing history as well.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, the format seems to be similar to what St. Louis and it's in Ballpark Village, which is adjacent to Busch Stadium 3. And in the letter that was sent out, John Sherman says, our vision is to not just build a facility that does justice to the spirit of the K. We want to construct a world-class experience, a new ballpark district and all that comes with it, one that is woven into the fabric of our city, can host events and concerts and boost our local economy. And it's a wonderful concept. That's not the problem here. The issue is not that the concept is bad. And thank you so much for Jacob Epple tuning in. I actually know him quite well. We go back a long ways, and it's definitely a pleasure to have him tuning in. Fantastic. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, Epple, on the Royals moving, because I know as a big Chiefs fan, they share parking lots. And the thing of it is, it's not like the Royals and Chiefs stadiums are right just 2 minutes away from downtown Kansas City. It's a good 10 or so minutes away from downtown. It's almost the distance that where Bill Bidwell wanted the football Cardinals to be from downtown St. Louis.
Right.
And of course, people didn't want that. So I don't know. It's not that it's a bad idea. I just feel like there's nothing wrong with the K to warrant the move, especially
Well,
since if you exclude the Athletics, because exclude Oakland from this equation, because they're probably going to move to Vegas or something. What after the Royals do move to out of the K into a new stadium, the oldest ballparks are going to be, if I remember correctly, you got Fenway Park and Wrigley Field,
yep.
Dodger Stadium, which came out in '62, and then Angel Stadium for the Anaheim Angels, which came out in '66.
Right.
And we don't even know what's going to happen with there. And Apple finally has his take here, and he loves it. Says move the Royals downtown, better for business. And here's an interesting take, because a lot of people, we've talked in the past about what might happen with the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Well, now the Chiefs would take over the K and his thoughts and build over top of it. So, James, I want your thoughts on that.
I mean, that's fine and all. I mean, but still, I mean, you're sacrificing history here. I mean, and I get it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, even if you were to, the Chiefs were to take that and to build a new stadium there, then you're losing all the history in Arrowhead. I mean, I guess it's all semantics when it comes down to it. But here's my thing. I mean, could you see maybe a ball team like, the Kansas City Monarchs taking over the old K? I mean, we're obviously still talking about 7.5 years down the road too.
Right. And this isn't happening tomorrow. This is something that's going to happen starting in at least 2030.
Right.
So we got plenty of time with this.
Yeah, no doubt. And so I get it. Again, you're looking for bigger and better, and you do need to bring more business, more tourism money and everything to downtown Kansas City. I'll tell you right now, the what is it? The light, is it the light and gas district? I can't remember what they call it in Kansas City. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
That brings some in, but obviously if you're bringing, obviously if you put the stadium downtown and it's easier to access for people that are coming in out of town, you're obviously going to build hotels down there as well. So, I saw this too, not new stadium, ballpark village for the Chiefs. Does that work though? Because Chiefs fans are notorious for their tailgating. So, I mean, would you want a ballpark village, quote unquote, for the Chiefs? I mean, I think that Chiefs fans are perfectly happy with the way they do things now because they are country known for how they tailgate.
Yeah, and you see Mike O'Brien commenting with Mahomes Landing could be the interesting name. I do like what he said earlier. We don't need more space for Jackson Mahomes TikTok. Yes, please keep Jackson Mahomes as far away from his brother as possible. Don't need the distraction. So, like I said, this is something that's this is something that won't take into effect until at least 2030. But this is the first time the Royals really went out of their way and said this is what a plan's going to be. Because we've heard for years now, there was rumors about, are the Chiefs going to be moving? Because people talk about, oh no, are they going to move to the Kansas side of Kansas City? Are the Royals and the Chiefs going to move? I mean, we did not know what's going to happen. Well, now John Sherman, the owner of the Royals, has made it clear that at the end of the decade, the Royals are going to leave the K, move to downtown. What happens with the K, we don't know. But, I mean, first off, it's one of the most beautiful stadiums in baseball, in my opinion. And honestly, like, one of the most affordable, but that's just because the Royals aren't exactly that good. Nevertheless,
I mean, the blueprint,
it's beautifully designed.
I was going to say the blueprint and the plans look gorgeous. So, I mean, if they can make that a reality, I mean, hey, it's all about, ultimately, it's all about money.
Yeah, I do know also, they've released some blueprints of it, and you can go to Interstate 70 Sports Media or interstate70sports.media to find out. You can also find us on the Facebook page and Twitter accounts to find that out. So, yeah, with that said, speaking of football, you were mentioning the Chiefs. Let's talk about what's going on this side of the state of Missouri when it comes to football. So, as a guy who is a big Alabama Crimson Tide fan,
Yes,
I
sir.
know you were jumping with joy when it was announced that one of the two quarterbacks that would be on the St. Louis Battlehawks was three-time national champion A.J. McCarron.
Yes, I was thrilled to see that the Battlehawks took A.J. McCarron. I think that, I mean, obviously, I was really impressed with their draft as a whole. A lot of guys that you were familiar with, or the names were familiar, or they played well in college. Ryan Willis is the other quarterback. He went to Virginia Tech. Was familiar with him as well. So, but yeah, A.J. McCarron and now Catherine Webb McCarron, as Brent Musburg will tell you. She was a good-looking girl. He was the one that, if you don't remember, made his comments during it was Alabama playing LSU, and she was in the stands cheering on AJ. They will come to St. Louis, and looking forward to seeing how he'll perform and how Anthony Beck has put this team together.
And I look at some of the other guys. I think the signing that made me most happy, or draft pick that made me most happy, was the one that I predicted would happen, and that was Austin Proehl, the son of former St. Louis Rams wide receiver and former Carolina Panthers wide receiver, and football Cardinals wide receiver, Ricky Proehl, who is now the wide receivers coach for the Battlehawks.
Yeah.
Having a father and son reunion. I love to see it.
Ricky Proehl has a very memorable catch in that stadium where his son will play. I was at that game, the 1999 NFC
You
Championship
were in the
game.
99 NFC title game.
I was there. I was on the 20-yard line. We went in. It was 65 degrees when we came out. There was snow on the ground. Yes, that was the touchdown catch, Warner to Proehl in the corner of the end zone that gave the Rams an 11-6 win and sent them to Super Bowl. So
it amazes me though, like out of it was a couple days ago where the Bills and the Vikings played, and Justin Jefferson made perhaps one of the greatest catches of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were saying, I believe it was Albert Breer who was talking about, in his opinion, some of the greatest catches of all time. Mentioned the Immaculate Reception, Lynn Swann in the Super Bowl, Santonio Holmes, Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham. How was this not mentioned?
God.
Look at that.
Memories.
And the thing of it is, my favorite part about this was, Bruce and Holder just looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Falk's still in the backfield, so everybody's like, well, shoot, Warner's just throwing it away. He's not throwing it to anybody. Ricky Proehl right there.
You want to
no touchdown catches all season long.
Damn it, you beat me to it. I was going to say you want a really cool statistic, and that's the one I was going to throw at you. No pun intended.
Right. He had no touchdown catches all season long, and he almost had the potential game winner against the Patriots in the Super Bowl 2 years later.
Yep.
After 99. So overall, I'm excited for Austin Proehl. I'm excited for Jamarcus Bradley.
Is it February yet?
Right. I'm excited.
Look, I'm going to be at the opener. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care if
there's so many really good wide receivers. Brian Hill, who was the running back when Josh Allen was at Wyoming.
Yep.
So it's upsetting to see some of these guys like Martavis Bryant and Matt Jones go to other teams. Especially Matt Jones, who made a name for himself with the second incarnation of the XFL, first incarnation of the Battlehawks.
Yep.
As the leading rusher in the league. But the fact is, St. Louis has himself a really good team building up right now, great coaching staff, and the fact is, it's community oriented.
Did you see the other thing?
That's the biggest thing.
I was looking at some of the other teams' draft. Man, I really think the Battlehawks have the better talent pool, really, especially at quarterback. And look, this is not me being like all A.J. McCarron crazy because I like him, but he knows how to win. He certainly knows how to win.
Yeah,
I mean you can't argue with that.
We take a look at
even if you did, you'd be wrong.
Well,
hey, look, man, come on.
So we take a look at the XFL quarterbacks. So every team's got two quarterbacks. So for the Arlington Renegades, you got Drew Plitt and Kyle Sloter. For the thank you. For the DC Defenders, you got Eric Dungy and
is that Tony Dungy's son?
I don't think so, but what do I know?
Do they only have one quarterback?
Yes.
Interesting.
For the Houston Roughnecks, you got Caleb Ellaby and Brandon Silvers. For the Vegas Vipers, got Jalen McClendon. And you got Luis Perez from A&M.
Luis Perez was actually in camp with the Rams.
Yes, he was. For the Orlando Guardians, you got DeAndre Francis and Quentin Dormady. So you got a couple good guys there.
Yep.
The San Antonio Brahmas, Jawan Pass. Now,
That's a perfect name.
I was just about to say, nothing makes it funnier than a quarterback whose last name is Pass.
Pass back to throw.
Pass with the handoff.
Yeah. What'd you say? Huh?
Huh? That doesn't make sense.
No.
And they also got Anthony Russo from Michigan State. Battlehawks, we've already said, AJ McCarron and Ryan Willis. The Seattle Sea Dragons. This is an interesting one. Here's somebody that has he's known as one of the more favorite preseason quarterbacks in the NFL. Ben DiNucci.
Got a funny story about him in a minute. Go ahead.
Oh, God. We got Ben DiNucci and Steven Montez. So those are the quarterbacks of the XFL that were drafted. And go for it, James.
So DiNucci went to Eastern Illinois University. I also the same alumnus as Tony Romo. Let me tell you what, those two, and I've been to their campus just recently, back at the beginning of October. Those two are like praised up there. I mean, statues and everything on that. Yeah.
A statue of Ben DiNucci.
Yes. They are seen as gods.
Oh gosh, that's funny and that's awesome.
I saw that. I was like, well, we could all be so lucky to be heralded such as.
I know, right? Look, we'll take mediocre at this point.
Well,
No, I'm telling you right now, I'm really excited. This Battlehawks team is coming together. I do feel that they have some of the best talent overall in the league. And I think the most important thing is having that experienced quarterback. And I'm not going to lie, how more experience than you get than having a guy who won the national championship 3 times?
Yeah, I mean,
I can't stay at Alabama, and I've never been shy on admitting that. But at the same time, look,
he's not.
Bring him on.
You also know he's not afraid to be coached hard as well, because Nick Saban's not easy on his players.
No.
He expects greatness. I mean, it's all about the process. So, I cannot wait. I cannot wait until the schedule's released and all that other stuff, and we find out when we get this ball rolling, because I am really looking forward to this. Pandemic be damned. Hopefully, the third iteration of the XFL is third time's a charm. Yeah.
How you mentioned
the second time would have been the second time would have been a charm had COVID not happened.
Exactly. You had mentioned how Nick Saban has known to be rough on his players. Maybe he should take a break from Alabama and go to the Illinois Fighting Illini.
Oh.
Because the Illini right now are in a rough spot. Not the worst possible spot. Like I said, they're going to be bowl eligible. They'll be in a bowl game.
Right.
But you lose back-to-back to Michigan State and Purdue. And this week, you face Michigan.
Yeah.
And this is not fluke Michigan. This is, honestly, national championship caliber Michigan right now.
Yeah. 2 of the best running backs in the country will go head-to-head this week.
Yeah, and I'm telling you right now, one thing I'm going to say it here on air, Chase Brown needs to be in this Heisman watch.
I agree.
The fact that he is not getting the recognition he deserves. The lowest yardage total he had was last week, and he had 98 yards and a touchdown still.
Yeah, it's absolutely criminal. He's not getting the national notoriety that some of these other guys are.
He's had multiple games of 200+ yards. He's every game besides last week, he had over 100 yards. I mean,
look at it. If he's not on that team and he's not producing that way, there's no way in hell they're close to bowl eligible.
No, not at all. And as much as I was a fan of Lovie Smith, and I am still as a coach and everything, you can tell the culture has changed.
Oh, Brett Bielema has done a great job there.
Yeah, Brett Bielema has really rallied the team around him and each other. The Illini do not give up, but at the same time, really couple rough weeks, and you do not want to have it at this time.
No, you're still trying to win your division to play in the Big Ten championship game. You want to be there, and right now, I mean, Purdue has beaten you, so they really controlled their destiny. Illinois just has to continue to win, and it would have been a much easier had you knocked off Michigan State and then beat Purdue. But now you've got to go to the Big House, and the only thing you can maybe get lucky with is that maybe Michigan is looking ahead because the next game on their calendar is Ohio State. And maybe you catch them looking ahead, and maybe this is a trap game for them. Otherwise, Illinois has to get back to running the ball, playing solid defense, which I don't doubt that they won't. They just have to get Chase Brown involved in that offense a little bit more, and hopefully he finds the end zone and the Fighting Illini knock off the Wolverines this weekend.
Yeah, and I love how you say trap game, because that's exactly what this one can be this Saturday, because there is not a rivalry in college football that has really had people's heads turned lately like Ohio State and Michigan.
It's the first time. This will be the first time that they're both ranked in the top 4 and play each other as well. This isn't going to be, well, unless Illinois knocks off Michigan.
Here's my question. If Illinois beats them, are they staying in that top 4?
No, Michigan ends up they're going to be out of the CFP if Illinois beats them. But this will be, if they beat Illinois and are still in the top 4, it'll be the first time that these two have played each other in the college football playoff era where both of them have been ranked in the top 4.
Yeah.
There's nothing to play for there. None of this is important.
No, exactly. They just look at this point. They're just trying to beat Ohio State because they're sick of being that team where, hey, we can beat everybody else except Ohio State. They're that
little brother.
It's kind of like the Rams when it comes to facing the 49ers. They can beat all these teams.
Truth.
And then what happens when they play the 49ers? You know what? It kind of goes back to what it was in the 90s and the 80s. Same old sorry-ass Rams.
Yes, Rams. Yep. The only time we beat them was the time, thankfully, that it counted, and that was the NFC Championship game last year. And if Jaquezi Tart catches the ball and picks off Stafford, then they do beat us. So, but you're right. And I think Illinois will know, back to Illinois, Michigan, they will know that they're going to have to play a more fundamentally sound football game this weekend. And I think they do. So I think that they may not beat Michigan, but I think it'll be much closer than what a lot of people, especially national pundits, believe it will be.
Absolutely. With that, we're going to transition because to continue with some of our quick news segments here on Roundabout Sports. James, you got some news you want to tell us about the Billikens.
Oh, man.
They kicked off their season.
Great win last night at Chaffetz as the Billikens knock off the Memphis Tigers 90-84. It was one of those games where I'll tell you what, and okay, so obviously I'm into gambling and betting. So initially when I looked at the line, the Billikens were a 3-point favorite, and I shrugged my shoulders and shook. I was like, whatever. I was like, I know they're playing at home. This isn't the same kind of NFL line where, like, okay, if you're at home, you get 3 points. Boy, Vegas certainly knew what they were talking about. And at one point in time during the game, the Billikens led the Memphis Tigers by 15 points. The Tigers roared back in the second half, cut it to 2, and that's when Yuri Collins took over the game. And the Billikens were able to shoot their free throws down the stretch and win the ball game. Yuri Collins actually leads the country in assists through the first 3 games of the season. The Billikens are now 3-0. I'm sure that they'll get some top 25 consideration when the new polls come out next week. They have Maryland this weekend in one of the Thanksgiving week tournaments. It's this is kind of the official kickoff or tip-off rather to college basketball season for me, is when you get into the Thanksgiving week tournaments. But the Billikens have Maryland, and then they've got, I think it's the winner of Virginia Tech and Clemson, maybe basketball-wise going down the stretch. Anyway, obviously you win, you stay in the winner's bracket. If not, you fall to the consolation bracket. But, man, I'll tell you, they look good. I know they have Auburn the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So that'll be another test, a big SEC test for the Billikens. And last year, Auburn beat them. The year before, Auburn got them. I'm not going to put anything past this Billikens team now. After seeing them knock off a very athletic Memphis Tigers squad coached by Penny Hardaway, I'm not putting anything past this Billikens team. The Billikens were picked second in the Atlantic 10. I think that they can finally they have enough talent on this team, including Pickens, who I think transferred in from Missouri. They've got Francis Okoro down low, big stud, and then of course you still have Yuri Collins, who runs that offense. And it's just nice to see and to get Perkins back. Javante Perkins missed last year with a torn ACL that he tore in practice, and he had a good game last night too. So you've got the core back. Terrence Hargrove Jr.'s back as well, and this team is athletic. They're talented, and I think that they'll be dancing in March this year, barring anything huge.
Their next few games, you got Maryland on the 19th, and you had mentioned the Sunday after Thanksgiving is when they got Auburn, who's currently ranked 13th in the league. They got Paul Quinn at Chaffetz on the 23rd next Wednesday. You got Southern Illinois on December 3rd. They end the month of November, actually, against Tennessee State. And then on the 6th of December, they got Iona. That
was a big win for them last year. That was the one at the buzzer over Rick Pitino's squad.
Exactly. So I believe you got yourself a couple tough matchups, but every game's winnable, and this is a great way to start the season for the Billikens, and there's a lot to look forward to, I feel like, this year.
Well, I mean, you're talking about it. You're talking about a coach in Travis Ford that obviously coached at Oklahoma State. Actually, he's from about a half an hour south of where I live. He's from Madisonville, Kentucky. He's a great recruiter. He's done a good job of recruiting the state of Missouri and St. Louis in general. I mean, Terrence Hargrove's from East St. Louis. Yuri Collins is a local kid. And everybody was worried that Yuri was either going to go to the league or transfer out. He came back, which is a huge, huge get for them because, while they're a good team, Yuri Collins is the point guard that makes everything go. And I'm actually not trying to divert my attention. I'm actually trying to pull up and see who they play. That Maryland, there we go. So they play on Saturday at noon at Maryland, and this is all part of that tournament. This is part of the Gavitt, I believe it's the Gavitt tip-off tournament. And then on Sunday at noon or 2:30, they'll play either Miami or Providence. So Miami, that could be a test right there. And then, of course, Wednesday, they play, as you mentioned, at Chaffetz against Paul Quinn, and then at Auburn on Sunday the 27th, and then you get into Tennessee State on the last day of November, and then you get into that stretch before you get into conference play. And the A-10, I know they kind of get looked over as they're not seen as one of the big major basketball conferences, but between Dayton, SLU, VCU, those top three teams, man, I think they can really surprise some other big schools in the country basketball-wise. We've seen so many upsets. I mean, Florida State has been upset by Stetson. They've been upset by Florida Gulf Coast. Just there's been a ton. I cannot wait till we get to March in terms of basketball because that tournament's going to be something else.
Well, it's interesting because March Madness will be here before you know it. I mean, hell, it's already week 11 in the NFL. So when
goes by fast.
Baseball season's already over. Hockey's just started. I mean, basketball's in full swing. So college, like I said, we only have a few weeks left of college football before bowl season. It really does fly by fast.
I'm happy about bowl season, but I'm sad. I mean, I'm used to playing obviously in a national championship game or one of the. Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Am I wrong? I told you it's not my fault.
You are wrong because you haven't played in anything.
Well, that's true.
You haven't played shit when it comes to a national championship.
My team. Fine, Jeremy. Fine.
Over here, that's like when he talks about we have all that. We?
Right. You got a mouse in your damn pocket?
Right.
Oh, man. Anyway, but yes, I do. I think that it'll be fun. And conference play is going to be knockdown drag out because St. Bonaventure generally has a team that can kind of, jump up and bite you as well. So Billikens look good. Illinois basketball, they get their first test this Friday night as they travel to UCLA. So yeah, Mizzou beat they beat up on SIUE yesterday, or last night rather. So I don't know what to think about Mizzou basketball. They always end up like 4th or 5th in the SEC. They have the talent. You've got a new coach in there, so we'll see what that brings as well. I mean, there are high hopes for all three of those teams, whether it's SLU, Mizzou, or Illinois this year.
Exactly. With that, I believe it's that time to cover our main topic of the evening.
Yeah.
So, folks, welcome to Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media. I am the maestro, Jeremy Carp, alongside my dear friend and co-host, Hollywood James Knox. And this is something we had brought up last week, but we knew that it had to have almost its whole entire segment dedicated to it, and it was going to take a decent amount. Because James and I love what we do. We're both journalists, both podcasters, broadcasters, and obviously the last thing we want to see is the potential for its reputation to get damaged. Well, in steps this guy, and
public enemy number one.
He has become public enemy number one because Elon Musk, who, for those that somehow don't know who he is the founder and CEO of SpaceX, of Tesla, of Neuralink, OpenAI, the Musk Foundation, and he is now the new owner and CEO of Twitter. This guy, and to make this clear also, his net worth as of last week. Oh, God, this can't be good.
How many zeros you got there?
Well, first off, hey, Christopher Miles, thank you so much for tuning in. Longtime wrestling referee, one of the best guys you can know. Be sure to check him out at Dynamo Pro Wrestling and at Pro Wrestling Epic. Yeah, how many zeros you got? I'll just put it in 3 numbers. $174 billion. Let's really think about this. When billion dollars. When you used to hear somebody was worth, a few $billion, you were like, holy crap, that's insane. 174 billion.
And this is the same guy that, by the way, just told his Twitter employees that free lunches and dinners would no longer exist. What a freaking tool. This guy is such a clown, man.
Well, the thing of it is also,
Cairo just scored 2-0 Blues.
There we go. Let's go Blues.
There's your update.
The second person on Bloomberg Billionaires Index has a net worth of 143 billion. So,
is that a lot?
Yeah. And here we go. Yeah, it's a decent amount. Is Elon tanking Twitter on purpose? Well, we're going to delve into that to an extent as well. So the first biggest thing that's gone on when it comes to Elon taking over, he wants to promote free speech. So it's kind of like when that one stern teacher gets fired that likes regulating and keeping things under rules, and then the new teacher comes in and the teacher just doesn't give a rat's ass what you do. That's Elon Musk.
Yeah.
That teacher who doesn't care. Because the perfect example is the check mark. Now, on Twitter, a lot of accounts have blue check marks. Historically, that is because you are a verified account and are usually either a authentic news source, whether you're a company, a journalist. So, like, we're just going to throw out some examples. Adam Schefter from ESPN, Ian Rappaport, Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, and then you got your networks like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, CBS. Those are examples. And of course, your Hollywood celebrities,
yep.
Like your Ryan Reynolds, I guess hell, I can't believe I'm just going to put a crazy guy on there. Charlie Sheen, why not? We'll just throw anybody out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the point of the check mark. Now, Elon Musk has adopted a new policy where for the low price of just $8 a month, anybody can have a check mark. After this show, James and I could get one if we wanted to. This isn't exactly the way I'd prefer to get the check mark.
I'm not giving that bastard $8 a month. He doesn't need $96 a year of my hard-earned money. What does this guy think he is? If anything, he should pay me $8 a month to be on his damn platform. I mean, look, celebrities are so it's like a mass exodus, like off of Twitter. Like, there's a lot of celebrities that are leaving the platform. Like, yeah, right. I'm with you, Chris. I'm not either. The hell with this. I mean,
exactly.
The bad thing is, though, is we sit here and laugh about it, but it does. I mean, you got guys that are creating parody accounts of Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport, and he's like, right. And he's like, well, they have to declare they're a parody account in their bio. And I'm like, you have to click their check mark to see if they're real or not. It's not like it just comes out and screams at you and says, I'm not real. I mean, how many people are going to get taken, you know? I mean, and I understand it. It's like, oh, if I get wrong information, but this has always been a platform that people follow certain writers or broadcasters or journalists to get real news. Now you could be had or be taken for a spin because, you know, it's somebody on there that's a parody account of them. And you're talking about guys that have worked their asses off, guys and gals that have worked their asses off through journalism school and whatnot. And there are X amount of dollars in student debt, you know, all for what? So somebody who can take their name and spit out a bunch of gibberish or fake news. I mean, we had enough of that. Trust me, over the last, you know, 6-7 years, just on media in general. And now this, I mean, I'll equate it this way. And then I want your thoughts because, so we talked about Jeff Saturday last week on the show and kind of mocked him a little bit for getting the head coaching job in Indianapolis. And I myself am guilty of that. Congratulations. He got his first win over the Raiders. So Bill Cowher came out and just absolutely lambasted the fact that Saturday got the job because he's never coached a day in his life. Well, Chris Mad Dog Russo turned it around on Bill Cowher by stating, okay, so you got a broadcasting job, Bill, and you've never broadcasted a day in your life when you got the job. So, you know, just kind of going off on the rant there. So we can be mad about that. And I'm extremely pissed because, like, especially with my Strike Zone podcast, I have sources and I take a lot of pride in being able to break news, especially when it's correct or it's big news about the Cardinals or whatnot. Well, now for lack of a better phrase, any Tom, Dick, or Harry can go out and do that. And it's not a reputable source. This just, it soils all over sports journalism and journalism of any kind for that fact.
You've known me for half a decade now.
Yeah,
over half a decade.
Yeah.
And you've known how long I've ranted and vented about the idea of just giving an athlete or a coach a job wherever they basically want it. And obviously, and to me, I think there are exceptions to and Josh says he knows Tom, Dick, and Har, but don't know about Harry.
And he goes, I never know.
Yeah, he's like, forget that one. Well, thanks for tuning in, Josh. We're glad to have you on. And folks, be sure to submit your questions, comments, everything. You know, we have at the bottom about what are your thoughts on Elon Musk, and we'll definitely be getting to your feedback. But I've always talked about the thought of players getting favoritism, getting to the broadcast booth right after their careers end. And Bill Cowher as a coach is no exception, one of the great coaches of our time. But, you know, Mad Dog Chris Russo nailed it. You know, he didn't have that broadcast experience. Yet what happens? Here, goes straight to the booth. And, you know, oh, here we go. We got our first one.
Yeah.
Elon, there's our first real thought on
I knew this was coming sooner or later.
And you know what? Fine. Look, folks, Send your comments out there on what you think about him. Shit, look. Let me make this clear. This broadcast is also being posted on Twitter. So
yeah,
Elon. Yeah, I doubt a guy that's worth 174 billion is going to give a crap what we think. But at the same time, he also wants to pay us $8 a month or charge us $8 a month, just so we can have a little blue check mark next to our name.
Is that greed? Greed is at its finest, or whatnot? I mean, he doesn't need the money. What the hell does it matter?
This is the thing. So one of the big things here is what we're talking about is, he's trying to make Twitter profitable in his mind, and yeah, Josh puts it
That's pretty much it. Because he can.
He can. That's what Josh says. Because he can, and because he can, it feels like he's trying to create a Twitter paywall. And a lot of people, a lot of athletes, celebrities, journalists, and we'll get to more of that soon, have left Twitter, something they've been a part of for years. You know, Twitter's not something that's new. I've had Twitter since I was a freshman in high school.
It's what, 12 years old? 12, 13 years old, something like that.
No,
I mean, it's
well over. I mean, Twitter, shit.
I think I joined Twitter like in 2008, maybe. So 14 years ago.
I joined Twitter in I believe 2010-ish. I mean, it says on the profile. Yeah, it was founded in 2006. So
good Lord.
A year after YouTube was founded.
See, I'd be more pissed off if I had to pay for YouTube than having to pay for Twitter. So, I mean, I could leave Twitter with no problem, but I shouldn't have to.
But this is kind of where I'm getting at. Twitter was made because it's a quick, efficient way to get breaking news.
Right.
Or because that's why the character limit, people get pissed off about how many characters you can use, but that's part of the point of Twitter. You can only say such a little amount, and it gets it right out there. You only see stuff from people you follow, and if you follow 5 journalists, you're only going to see stuff from 5 journalists, but it's breaking news. And with Elon Musk taking over, firing everybody, trying to create his own conglomerate here.
I still can't believe he got rid of the free lunches and stuff like that. I just...
And here's another thing. And we're going to get into this. You talked about you're a little bit of a gambling man, and I know you well enough for that. And we're going to talk about how this also would affect sports gambling as well. But no, they've been scared off. Users have been scared off by the initiative to become verified because they would have to pay that $8 a month fee. And like I said, a week or two ago, what did we see? We saw LeBron James with a check mark, but it wasn't really LeBron. We saw Adam Schefter with a check mark, but it wasn't really Adam Schefter. I mean, we've seen legitimate news sources that are not those legitimate news sources, and that these folks that run these accounts can get away with it because Elon Musk lets it happen. Like, this is the equivalent of just all hell breaking loose, but on a social media platform with 180 characters or less.
Yeah.
So it just drives me nuts to no end because, first off, Twitter's not even been on the stock exchange because with everything going on, they had to pull it because they don't know what to do with it. I mean, everything's just become absolutely batshit crazy. And one more thing, and I'm going to pass it back over to you. So
sorry, I was checking Twitter.
No, you're fine.
I was, but
you're fine. Wanted to make sure it's still free and existent.
Yeah.
Is also the fact of how hate speech and racial profiling and bullying, you can get away with it now more so than ever because there's not as much of a filter because of the free speech. Look, there is free speech is in the Constitution. We get that. And Josh says it perfectly. News isn't news. It's an opinion. It's an opinion.
He's right. 100% right.
And even with sports companies and sports shows, based on what teams they prefer. ESPN prefers their teams and athletes. Everybody knows that. Fox Sports prefers their teams and athletes. We watch Undisputed, one of the top rated shows. We all know which guys Skip Bayless likes.
Yeah.
I mean, so Twitter has become more toxic than ever because it's led by a man who doesn't care what happens to what he just spent a shit ton of money on.
Well, and you're right. I mean, and Josh is right. Everything is opinion. I mean, a lot of people have left ESPN because of their political opinions and that conversation, which we are steering clear of. I'm not going to get into that. But, the idea, and I had a thought when you were speaking, and it kind of jumped the track and got away from me. But, the idea of, the hate speech, the First Amendment and protects your freedom of speech. However, that First Amendment does not protect you from the repercussions of what you may say. That's what I was going for. And the point being is that if you go on, and we've seen this with Kyrie Irving lately, and his anti-Semitic comments. So, I understand you want freedom of speech, whatever. And everybody gets mad at Zuckerberg and Facebook and their fact checkers for everything else, or certain comments that may be made and being, that's fine. Some of that is blown out of proportion. Some of it, again, that's all opinion. Believe who you want, take it for a grain of salt, whatever. But some of these directed comments, whether it be racial, whether it be based on sexual orientation, whether it be based on whether you're white, green, red, I don't give a damn what color you are. There still needs to be repercussions for things that are said that are out of line. Josh, it's a very good comment. When two or more opinions are agreed upon, it seems to become fact. The idea is if you say it long enough and as many times as possible, then you will start to believe it as truth.
And it works, especially on a platform such as Twitter, because now you can pretend to be a verified person and push that narrative, whatever your narrative may be, whether it be a religious one, a political one, a sports one. I mean, we already, like you said, we have seen the backlash that Kyrie Irving has gotten because of his comments. And I'm just going to say it, rightfully so. As a member of the Jewish faith, I think it was absolutely asinine and stupid with how Kyrie Irving acted.
Yeah, he deserves to be fired into the fucking sun. I'm just going to say that much right now.
Take him and Elon, go shoot him off there together. So that's how I look at it.
Just send SpaceX with him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Elon has the programs for just that.
Gas that bitch up and go.
and that's the thing. Like, people have, this is called like the Elon effect, because people have mass exodus from Twitter to go to Facebook, have gone to, believe it or not, Instagram. Now they've been doing more news updates on Instagram with
I've seen that.
Detailed art with detailed graphics.
Yep.
And I'm not even joking when I say this. Some have even gone back to Tumblr, which there's a blast from the past, I'll tell you right now. But it's just an example. Like, if you're having to go back to Tumblr, you know something's wrong with what's going on Twitter.
Nah, bro. Tom is sitting in his corner going, y'all bring your asses back to MySpace.
Oh my God. Oh,
and you know what?
Gosh.
To go back to circle back around to my Zuckerberg comment, boy, he's sitting there just laughing his ass off right now. You know damn well. He's like, y'all keep screwing around over there. Y'all come home. Because if everybody's going back to if everybody's going back to Facebook, then this goes back to Chris's comment. Is Elon tanking Twitter on purpose? I don't think he's tanking Twitter on purpose. I just don't think he's smart enough to know better.
I see, and I absolutely agree with that. I think it's not so much of a tanking of Twitter.
He's ignorant.
Purpose.
Yeah, he's ignorant to the idea.
He thinks that what he's doing is right, but in reality, it's the absolute worst thing he can do. And Twitter still provides an excellent utility for news, and it's very appealing to consumers and the media. But it's just the whole atmosphere of Twitter is in grave danger because of the fact that now anybody can be verified. Anybody can pass themselves off as a legitimate news source. First off, you don't need to be verified to be a legitimate news source, but now you can be verified, and you may okay. Let's be honest. If you're just anybody on Twitter and you get followed by a verified account before Elon took over, you're thinking, holy crap, a legitimate source followed me. This is pretty cool. I'm feeling kind of important. Now, somebody with like 3 D's and a Q and like a P in their name with 6 followers, but somehow found a way to get the verification follows you, you're kind of in trouble.
Well, and you made a good point, when we led into this about like the sports gambling aspect of things. I mean, I'm afraid that with this like the way he's doing things and the $8 can get you verified and this or that, you're gonna have spammers and scammers out there. I mean, we already have them on Twitter, and that needs to be cleaned up anyway. But you're going to have a lot of people out there that are going to try to take advantage of people, whether it's sports betting or really like in any kind of charity or I mean, it opens the door for so many issues on top of the journalism. But I've met a lot of great people on Twitter that are verified now or were and lost their blue check mark. And I don't know. I wish I had an answer here or whatever else, but I just don't understand. I mean, maybe it is strictly what Josh said because he can, why this is going down the way it is. But ultimately, it's so hard to have this conversation and not kind of edge towards that political base, because I think a lot of that has to do with his beliefs and everything else stemming from that, and now into a social media platform in which, has been, around for 16 years. And all of a sudden he's trying to flip the social media aspect of things upside down. I'm with you. I just think he's too ignorant to actually know that he's doing harm instead of actually doing something that's helpful or good.
Yeah. And I want to flash back to when Elon Musk said back on November 1st, he said Twitter's current lords and peasants system for who has and who doesn't have a blue check mark is bullshit. Power to the people, blue for $8 a month. Okay, that right there ruins it. That right there, he ruins his own point on power to the people for $8 a month. It's not power to the people, and it's not from the people by the people if the people have to provide.
I know, right? That's what I sit there thinking. I'm sure you saw the look on my face. I had like that confused dog where I cocked my head. I was like, wait a minute. He just contradicted himself.
He contradicted himself. And meanwhile, Martina Navratilova, and I know I completely botched her last name, but the 59-time Grand Slam champion and legendary tennis player had made it clear. She said, I didn't ask for the blue check mark. It just showed up one day. So feel free to take it away. My peeps know it's me.
There you go.
I mean, there you go. Like,
and I'm glad you tried to say her name because I always mess it up too.
Yeah. So I give it my best shot. That's just what I can do, and at this point, and that's another thing. And so I wanted to get back to quickly the quickly get on this of the sports betting. So Twitter ran a poll, of course, a while back. It says 7 out of 10 bettors are on Twitter. 33% of bettors wager because of Twitter, and 65% are motivated to because of what they see on Twitter as far as sports. And I feel like that's something that you could agree on, being a man who's both on Twitter and delves into sports gambling.
Right.
And with the here you go. Egotistical ignorance is Elon's systematical destruction of social media accountability.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
That sums up everything I just said. Yeah, I mean, that sums it up.
people in power, whether it's via wealth, political, or any other way, always want more.
Yeah.
The problem is the more they get, the less they can handle it. And Elon has gotten so much power, he can't handle what he has.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. And Elon Musk, I mean, look, are we going to sit here and act like every single, and there you go, less is more. That's another perfect way to say it.
It's not always true.
Yeah, because it's easier to handle a lot of one thing than a lot of things.
Yeah.
And between Tesla, SpaceX, the Musk Foundation, Twitter, everything, I mean, he's the equivalent of a little kid right now. But he's being a deterrent. Now, you're going to have folks out there who are still going to stand by and support it. And we're going to be on Twitter still, we're not going to act like we're leading a rebellion, because that's not the point of this. The point of this discussion is to bring up the fact that what we feel is the danger to the integrity of Twitter and what it means for the integrity of journalism, which is what we're going to get into now because of it. Because this goes way beyond whether or not you have a check mark. Because the check mark is just for the verification sake, to see if you can be a trusted, reliable source. Well, how many rumor accounts are there? How many transition trackers or rumor mills or recap or this he said she said accounts are on there?
Right.
Well, now that they originally they don't have check marks, and people are like, well, who's your source? Who'd you get that from? Well, look what happens now. You get that check mark, and it's like a bunch of blind mice saying, oh, well, damn, now all of a sudden they are legit. They got their sources, you know?
Well, and I think a lot of it goes back to the fact that, a lot of us, you went to college, I went to college, and you major in journalism, and, when you graduate, you have this nice shiny degree, but you also have a lot of, anymore. I mean, I don't know how it was for you, but like the idea was like to get a nice high paying job, after high school, you had to go to college. I mean, nobody was throwing like trades and stuff in trade schools and stuff at us. It was always like this college or that college. And you go get that degree.
Or nothing.
You get that degree in journalism and you work your ass off to get there. And now you're right. I mean, anybody with a quote unquote blue check mark is a revered source. And that's like using Wikipedia to write a freaking term paper. I mean, anybody could go in and change that. I mean, what's the difference? It's the same principle on Twitter now.
Exactly. And I'm going to post this question for everybody that's tuning in. And James, you can feel free to say your part on it as well. Do you feel that Elon Musk will be the eventual downfall of Twitter?
I think he has enough money that he can buy his way out of any jam he gets put in or finds himself in. However, I think the answer to that is yes. And I think we're already seeing it. I mean, I think the idea of like anybody can go out and buy a check mark and now they become a revered source or a scholarly source or whatever source they could be. I don't care if you're a parody account or not. I mean, if I'm in a hurry and let's say, obviously we get closer to the hot stove, really getting warm baseball wise. And I look down real quick and I see this. I'm like, oh, wow, the Cardinals get such and such, or they trade this. And like for us, like we post everything, we get our sources and stuff. We take that information and we share it with our followers and get it out there off of our page and our website. Now anybody's going to be able to be had. And I think that that's going to find itself. It's not wait till we have the 2024 presidential election.
Yeah.
Wait till we get into bigger, because look, it's bad enough that all that crap goes around anyway that time of year. You've got this person, that person just throwing stuff out. Well, now even if they're not a acknowledged source, whether it's political, whether it's athletic, whether it's academic, I mean, you see that and they've got a blue check mark. We've all become accustomed and almost conditioned to see that check mark. We believe that they're a legitimate source. And now you're going to have to dig in deeper. Well, I made this comment to you last week before we, got into it this week. Like a lot of places, and I know when I worked at the radio station, like it was our kind of joke was we'd rather spring the news than break it, because we would rather be a little later on it, but make sure we have all the details of the story correct than just fire off whatever and be completely wrong or have aspects of the story wrong, because then it makes you a source that's not credible, and you're kind of looked down upon. We're like, well, we can't always believe what they say because they're more worried about being the first one out there instead of being the first one that has the correct story.
And that's the thing. That's a lot of times why we don't have the story out there first, because we're over here trying to make sure we get all the details, checking with all of our sources, making sure that it's as right as we can possibly get. And, another thing that this affects is, because the question at the bottom, do you feel he'll be the downfall of Twitter? Well, also, given what's going on, you got to look at advertising. You got to look at advertising on Twitter.
Good point.
And, you could see a seismic shift of advertisers leaving because the content that Elon Musk would allow may not fall in line with their core values. Look, when you have a platform, there's a difference between having a platform of free speech and a platform of free speech without consequences.
There you go.
And when you have a platform of free speech without consequences, everybody else looks at you different, because the consequences don't come from the men in charge or the men and women in charge. It comes from who's on your level.
Right.
And here's a comment from Josh that I really like. Fake news is like hot gossip. It spreads before they know it was a bad idea. It's the problem with the world today. Want something for nothing. Stop taking everything for face value. Do some research. And just those last three words are just so key, is that do some research. Because look, here's a perfect example for you're mentioning like Cardinals and stuff and things we were looking at. Okay, it was about a week and a half ago, some account that was verified posted something that the Cardinals signed Wilson Contreras to a big deal, and that he was going to wear number 4 and everything, and people bought into it. And, it's like, okay, maybe 80% of the people thought it was a joke, but guess what? There's 20% that still believe it's real.
Right.
And they'll come back for more, and they'll tell other people. The world, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. Maybe the world has gotten lazier to where that's one thing of Twitter, to where you can just quickly get your info.
Right. Well, it's that instant gratification. Like, we want it now. We want it now. And here's the thing about people, especially on Twitter. Twitter is a cesspool. Let me tell you what. So it's the idea that most of the people, the loud mouth majority, okay, are the ones that are always out there spewing this and that. And it's funny because those are the ones that are generally ignorant about things. It's the people who are quiet and kept to themselves that very rarely say anything that are generally the smartest, but you never hear from them. You always hear from that outspoken loudmouth majority. And you're right. But think about it this way, and we see this on Facebook all the time, Jeremy. We have to unfortunately answer to some of these comments at times. When we write a story or put out news, it's like, oh, people just read the headline and they don't dig into the story. So you could read the headline and have no idea what the story really is. And of course, they fire off their first instinct, about it. And that's what Twitter is. I mean, it started out as 140 characters, and it's like, what, 160, 180, something like that. Now the Twitter, the character limit was upped a bit, but still, it's the point. I mean, you go on there, you read something, and you may, like I said, you do a quick glance at it, and you don't have time to get into it or whatnot. And now it could be from a complete, just unreliable source. And yes, it's going to be the downfall of Twitter. Unfortunately, it's the downfall of society when you really look at it.
Without a doubt. So I'm also looking at an example where here's something for you. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in, sticking with us. Please share it with your comments, subscribe, share, like. We appreciate all the feedback we can get. we're in the middle of discussing about Elon Musk taking over Twitter and how it's affecting, at this point, not even just democracy, but journalism and sports journalism and everything and morality as a whole.
Right.
And I was reading an article by CNN. Actually, I'm sorry, this article was from Barrett Sports Media. And it brought up a very good point. Say, we talk about the verification check mark and how anybody can get it now for the logo price of $8 a month. Well, Adam Schefter is not just Twitter based. Ian Rappaport isn't just restricted to Twitter. Ken Rosenthal's career would not be over if he didn't have Twitter. There is Facebook. There is Instagram. There is the websites that they work for. There are the networks that they work for. Let's not forget, there are websites that have their own streaming services, their own live shows where they
Bleacher
can,
Report.
they have Bleacher Report. They have their own podcasts like us, how we're on Spotify and everything. They're on Spotify and whatnot. So they're just guys that so happen to be on. And Josh has a great comment here.
The Eric Bischoff line.
The Eric Bischoff line. Controversy creates cash, and that's exactly what Elon Musk is doing.
Wait till next week's show.
Oh God, yeah. So anyway, I'm taking a look at these notable journalists, and the content they put out. Their careers will not be ruined, but they go somewhere else, or at the very least, if they leave Twitter.
Right.
Because they have all these other platforms. They have millions of followers. They're already going to be going to other places. I'm going to tell you right now, Ken Rosenthal says, I'm just sticking to Facebook. Okay, good. I'm following Ken Rosenthal on Facebook. I'm going to get his updates. Same with Instagram or his podcasts or his shows like MLB Network, Fox, whatever it may be. Yep. Twitter is not the end all be all. But as long as sports journalism is on Twitter, you have to give it the respect it deserves with the amount of integrity it deserves. And Elon Musk is just a petty little kid that does not know how to do that. And us, the journalists, have to suffer. Whether you're just somebody who's wanting to start up, whether you're somebody who's on our level of been doing this for a long time, or somebody who's at the very top, like, once again, and we've been referencing him most of this segment, Adam Schefter. Because him and Rappaport and Ken Rosenthal,
guys like Bob Nightingale,
all these. Although I'm kind of sick of Bob because he keeps jinxing every cool thing.
I know, right?
Every no hitter. Hey, there's 2 outs left of the no. Bob, shut up. So, but nevertheless, Elon Musk has really dug Twitter into a hole.
Yep.
And I think it's devalued the integrity of so much of the hard work that these journalists have put in. And here's another thing. We've talked about vaguely a lot of the concerns or not concerns, but opinions and stances that Elon Musk is in. I'm also worried that by him owning Twitter, it will make it harder for female reporters and journalists to break out on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, you're right there. I mean, there's that pretty much sums it up in terms of that. You're right. I mean, I really don't even know what else to say in terms of that, but the fact that I think you're right. I think he is so biased one way. I mean, I think he's made that pretty obvious by some of his statements and actions that, geez, I mean, you kind of knocked that one out of the park. I mean, I hated that it's that way. I mean, it's hard enough for them to get into the journalism business anyway. And now when you've got this,
you're telling me
this social media dictator, or I guess he thinks he's the monarch of social media.
But the martyr is what he thinks. He thinks he's the martyr of Twitter.
Yep. And that he can control everything and kind of, I wish it would have never happened. I think Twitter will still be around, but ultimately I could see Twitter ultimately having to file for bankruptcy at some point. Just in terms of not because of his, it's just tough, man. I wish that whenever he first got into it, that they would have moved away from that. But money talks. $44 billion talks.
Yeah,
because that's what he paid for it.
I also, it's interesting. This is, I forgot to mention two notable social media platforms and sites in all of this, and that's also YouTube and TikTok, where, I mean, how hard would it be to just make a TikTok if you're, which it may sound crazy, but imagine being a main sports journalist, making a quick TikTok saying such and such is going to this team, or
there you go.
This person's retired, or sadly this person's passed away. It doesn't take much. What it takes is some human decency, some integrity, and the right information to pass that along. But if there's always somewhere else.
Right.
I think the perfect example is radio. And there's another avenue. Yep. What happened a long time ago when TV first came about? I know neither of us were around then, thankfully. We're not that old, but they all thought TV was going to fade away.
I'll date myself here. Video killed the radio star.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually that was the first ever music video shown on MTV back when they showed music videos. But that was the idea.
Zenith console TVs.
There you go. I had one of those too. But yeah, video killed the radio star, and radio, like, even on top of that, satellite radio killed the radio DJ, because local radio suffered because everybody went to satellite streams because it was cheaper. Well, now in the same comparison, why wouldn't I go to Facebook? Why wouldn't I go to TikTok? Why wouldn't I go to Instagram? Why wouldn't I go to these other social media outlets? If you're going to charge me or want to charge $8 a month for a stupid ass check mark, and when I put information out, nobody's going to trust me, or everybody's going to question me because they're not sure I'm not a parody account, I'll just go somewhere else where I know my followers will follow me, and then you'll be sat there holding the bag and you'll have nobody there paying you anything. Or if you are, nobody's going to be there to consume the information because they all think you're full of shit. Exactly. Because you are.
And this is and there is a point out there where Twitter's ability, though, to connect, and this is one thing I'm worried about when it comes to the potential downfall because of Elon Musk. Twitter has a unique ability to connect with sports writers and other media that you can't really do on other social media platforms. Just because there's always a way. And before I finish that point, Jack's History, thanks so much for tuning in. Says, I think the check marks that people buy should look different than the check marks for the real verified account.
Or be a different color.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where he's getting at. And I think that's a great point right there. It could be any color. Make one red, the other one blue. I mean, shit, isn't that how the country is anyway? Nevertheless.
Don't you stay away from that.
Well, you know what?
But I mean,
I'll throw green in there and everything.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean,
but no, getting at the beat writers. So an RSS feed can't replace the way that Twitter's ability is to connect with all media members.
Right.
You have Twitter lists of beat writers from every conference, that you wanted if you were to follow college football, and it's just an interesting way to where you can find your information on Twitter that you can't really find it on other platforms because the other platforms weren't designed specifically for quick access to news.
There you go. And that's what I was getting ready to say. It's all about the quick access. I mean, really, I think you summed it up well there. I agree. I think that, because you say for each sport, like college football, I follow Kirk Herbstreit. I follow Jeremy Fowler. I follow Ryan McGee and Marty Smith for college football. For baseball, it's guys like Bob Nightingale. It's guys like Ken Rosenthal. And even local guys in St. Louis, guys like Brad Thompson or Randy Carricker, or, those guys that are esteemed, Derek Gould in there as well. You're right. And it's nice because it's all there and it's quick and it's accessible, but maybe it's time, and I mean, Josh says time to create a breaking news style app. geared towards sports. But that's what Twitter was initially for. I mean, that's why Twitter blew up as well as it did, because all of the news and stuff on there. I mean, that was what the app was for. And I mean, I had, what was it called? Like, I can't remember the name of the app, but I could have in one feed, I could have all of my Facebook, Twitter, and everything. It was all in one app, and it just kind of scrolled down. I can't remember what it was, but it was all connected to my social media, and it was easy right there. And the problem is even with it saying only valued established sources can apply. I mean, the problem is we thought that was Twitter, but there's going to be hackers. There's always a way to find. Nothing is foolproof, and that's evident by the fact that Elon Musk.
I promise, Josh, it's not Bumble. That is not the one James is talking about.
No. No.
I will say, looking at with Josh's point about the only valued established sources that can apply. First off, where do you draw that line?
And what do you consider valued? Yeah.
Exactly. Where do you draw that line on what is considered a valued source? Because it is a great idea. That is something that, and you mentioned Twitter is the perfect, or at least is the perfect way for quick access. Because Facebook, look, it's the connecting app. It's the way to connect with family, friends, colleagues, all that. And of course, it's intermittent with news. That's why in a lot of, links to other websites for stories. Twitter is I want it now. I want to look at this, and then I want to be out.
Yep.
But in that quick second that you're on there checking something, like, it's a lot easier because I can set on my phone, like, here's an example. I got a notification on my phone from Twitter from Katie Wu of The Athletic in regards to like a show that she's doing involving the Cardinals.
Yep.
That right there, that's a Twitter notification. And imagine that with a lot of the guys, whether it's from Pro Football Focus, from Ian Rappaport, guys at NFL Network, Tom Pelissero, all these guys. And like Michelle Smallman, Josina Anderson, Aditi Kinkabwala, like the journalism in sports in general is easy to access on Twitter. But the problem is now the line has become blurred. Yeah. There was that set line that you had where you knew who was the legitimate source, who was somebody who was trying to be a legitimate source, and then you knew who was somebody who was just trying to screw with everybody and they really didn't know shit. Now, it went from being a straight line to just all over the place.
Yep.
And those all three combined into one. So you have a pool of the real journalists, the wannabe journalists, and the ones that are just making shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the danger lies. Because when we used to have parody accounts, they used to just have names spelled backwards or their last names missing a couple letters. Like
Adam Schefter, a bunch of numbers after them or whatever else, yeah.
Like Adam Schefter's would be Adam Shefty or something, or Not Real Schefter or something. So, but now they can say his full name, get a check mark, and as long as they say parody, they can get away with whatever they want. They can say Aaron Donald has retired. He'll retire at midnight tonight. And it could easily it could actually be believable because the Rams are sucking ass right now. But he could and that person could take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So Josh brought up the point of valued established sources. Well, now on Twitter, you don't know who those valued established sources are because they've become intermixed with all these other people that claim to have sources, all these other rumor mills, others that just feed and copy off of others. and now, like, the thing of it is, there's an old saying that if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
Well, Musk broke into the door Twitter after buying it for 44 billion because that's just chump change for him still. Like, he'll make the money back. And even if this whole Twitter purchase becomes a complete failure, he's still got Tesla. He's still got SpaceX. He's still got his foundations. He's got everything in his hands. Like, people talk about Jeff Bezos and his monopoly with Amazon. Look, Jeff Bezos, I don't even know if he's the top 5 of richest people in the world. I mean, he's maybe at 100 billion. But compared to what Elon Musk is, the difference is, while Jeff Bezos is creating a lot of issues in the consumer world, Elon Musk is creating a lot of issues in the written world, the world of just trying to find the right information. His problem is, and this is one of my key points on this, James, the right information is whatever information he wants to be right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And see, oh geez, I like that. Yeah, Jeff Bezos and I think Jay-Z wanted to team up and buy the Commanders. So it changed the team to the Washington Prime. Look, after they beat the Eagles on prime time, they can call them that all they want. They've earned that.
Yep.
But no, we just know that, and it's only, the thing of it is, it's only been a few weeks into the Musk era or the Elon era of Twitter, and it's already been a catastrophe for so many. Like, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens as we go throughout at least the rest of the calendar year and the fiscal year next year, to see where Twitter ends up or how it, I don't know.
I don't either. And all the other companies and corporations are looking on, with their straight thoughts on this. And yeah, the games will be exclusive to Amazon Prime because those have all been interesting already this year. So
tomorrow night could be a good one.
Yeah, was it Titans and Packers, I believe?
Yeah, could be an interesting one.
That could be. So before we close it out, folks, we do got a couple more stories we want to get through. First, James is going to give us an update on how the lovely St. Louis Blues are performing right now.
This game is crazy. So the third period just dropped the puck on it a couple minutes ago. Blues lead the Blackhawks 4-2.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was 1-0 at one point in time in the first period. Then the Blackhawks have 2 goals from Andreas Athanasiou, and the Blues have goals from Kyrou, O'Reilly, Callie Rosen, and I don't know who got the last one. It was Tyler Pitlick, his first of the year and first as a Blue. So right now with 17:25 to go in the third period, the Blues lead the Blackhawks 4-2.
All right, there we go. So we do have a little bit of wrestling news, and that will tie into what we're going to be previewing for next week's show, which I know James and I are especially excited for this. Because Thanksgiving time is a very, very important and famous time in professional wrestling with Survivor Series coming up. But first, what is Vince McMahon up to since leaving WWE? So after the whole Hush Money scandal, and that was published in the Wall Street Journal, which eventually led to him leaving WWE. WWE War Games, Jags history. I mean, that's going to be a big part of it right there. And like I said, we'll be getting into that next week, but we're going to talk a little bit about it soon. But this is interesting. So Vince McMahon was actually spotted on a date in New York City recently. So it's just so funny because this guy is out of WWE. He has no plans on coming back. And yet somehow he has no problem being the public guy just going on a date, like all willy-nilly. I don't know why that cracks me up.
Yeah. More power to him, I guess. I mean,
yeah, because let's also not forget a lot of the stuff that was going on did involve him and his now, I guess, separate. They're not even officially divorced.
No.
Separated wife Linda McMahon. And I don't know. It just stuff gets crazy. Also in the news of wrestling, Natalya Neidhart, who is the daughter of the late great Jim Neidhart, has said that she has one last goal in WWE. She's been a mainstay in the company for well over a decade, but she wants to be a Grand Slam champion. Now, to do that, she has to win one more women's championship in WWE, because right now she is a former WWE Divas champion when that existed, a WWE SmackDown Women's champion, and a WWE Women's Tag Team champion.
Just gotta get the Raw title.
She has yet to hold the WWE Raw Women's Championship. By doing that, she will complete the Grand Slam. And she says, one day I would love to say that I held the Raw Women's Championship, and for me, that'd be something I'd love to do. We're also wondering if she will be a member of one of the Survivor Series teams, which leads us, folks, to next week's episode of Roundabout Sports. And I know, James, you were the one that originally came up with the idea of talking about this. Yep. So I'm going to leave it to you, my friend, to kind of preview what we got going for us next week for the amazing audience we have.
Yeah, so next week, obviously, will be the November 23rd edition of Roundabout Sports. And, of course, that's the day before Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is synonymous with Survivor Series. So we'll talk about some of the top Survivor Series moments of all time. And, of course, that's something we'll put out on our Facebook page, as well as if you want to chime in with some of your favorite moments. Obviously, we're going to cover some of the moments. I'll give you a sneak peek. Obviously, The Undertaker made his debut at Survivor Series. We had the episode of the Survivor Series with a big hatched egg. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know what that means. And then by that time, we should have a pretty good idea of what the matches are going to be at the 2022 edition of Survivor Series. And of course, Jags History kind of talked about it. This will be the first iteration of War Games for the main roster for Raw and SmackDown. And I would imagine that you will probably see some call-ups from NXT for that event as well. So all of that will be next Wednesday. And of course, we'll talk about some of the before we get into that, we'll talk about some of our normal sports stories. I'm sure that we'll hit on the Blues and see what else is going on in the sports world, and hopefully some hot stove news by then.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm excited for it. It's funny. At work today, we were giving out turkey hats to people. And I was wearing one of them just to kind of show off what it looks like. And when one of them asked me what my name was, I told them the Gobbledygooker.
There you go. I'm so proud of you.
I couldn't resist. And I thought of you. I was like, I can't wait to tell James that one. So
that's
there
good.
You have it, folks. Next week, though, we're going to be definitely talking, as James said, talk about Survivor Series, previewing the upcoming pay-per-view, talking about some of our favorite Survivor Series in the past. And I have one more to mention. Sting 2014 in St. Louis.
Yep.
I believe it was 2014. It might have been. No,
was it 14 or 15? I don't remember.
Shoot. Hang on. Let me try to remember. It was 2014 Survivor Series.
There we go.
So yeah, I mean, God, 8
time
years
flies.
Ago.
I know already.
Wow. Okay.
A fun edition of the show.
I'm looking forward to it. And folks, we would love for you to tune in. And we're thanking you so much. And yep, Jack's History got it right there in 2014. See, that's what I knew it. As always, folks, though, before we close it up, we always put on the NAMI hotline, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. If you need help at any time, you just call 1-800-950-NAMI, 1-800-950-NAMI. It is a nonprofit group, or it started as a nonprofit grassroots campaign to help bring more awareness to mental illnesses that definitely are undervalued, underfunded, and not given enough attention that they deserve, not just in the country, but in the world, especially with a lot of turbulent times going on. And we also, at the end of every show, post the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For that, you just need to dial 988. It was a longer number in the past, but now they've shortened it down to just 988. It's 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you are never alone. There is always somebody out there who loves you and is willing to listen to you and talk with you and care about you. The road to life isn't one you need to go down alone. You are never alone out there. It just takes that one person. And on top of that, you can be that person for someone else.
Yep.
If you know someone who's struggling, you can be that person. You'd be amazed at the difference you could make. I'm very grateful to be able to do this show alongside James every week, and we look forward to next week's episode of Roundabout Sports. So until next time, folks, I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp. He's Hollywood James Knox. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.